All right, I'm back. This is the third installment of my chess book series that I own. Here we go. So we left the theme of the culture in chess, like, the evolution of chess. Now we're getting to, obviously, chess tactics. If you're going to study chess and get good at chess, probably the first thing you do after learning the basics is study chess tactics. And without tactics, you're not going to be able to pull off anything in chess, right? You're going to be doing basic threats where you attack one piece, but you really have no follow-up, and it's not anything deeper than a direct attack. Tactics helps you see. Tactics makes you a more subtle player, a more dangerous player. Anyway, so you eventually need to do tactics, a lot of tactics, so you can notice the patterns, the tactical patterns, and the more you do, the more complex ones you do, and then you start to see it becomes instinctive. And just like we see forks, like us maybe low to low intermediate players see forks and beginners miss obvious forks, chess masters see the deeper tactics that us medium players miss. So anyway, do a lot of tactics. Here's a good book, Tactics Antenna. Know when and where to look for combinations. I think the title is kind of gimmicky. It doesn't really help you uh, figure that out. There are no real principles. It's just, a bunch of puzzles. But maybe I'm being a little unfair. It's not a gimmick. I think the title is a gimmick, but he does give you. He says he calls it the 7 signals, right? If the position is a certain place, that's a cue that tactics are, afoot. There's an unprotected pieces. Obviously, if there's unprotected pieces, they're hanging pieces. You try to devise a plan to where you can, sweep one of them up. There's alignment, right? If the bishop and the queen are aligned, or the rook and or if the queen and the king are aligned, these are going to be opportunities. So I take it back. This is not a gimmick. This is more of like what do I want to call it? Things to look for that will usually mean tactics are available. So it's a good book. I disparaged it too soon, too quickly, as I often do. People. Chess workbook strategy. This looks like a kid's book, especially by the graphic art here, but this is a good tactics book. So I turned it open to the kids page side. So you have puzzles here, right? He goes over basic strategies, and then he gives you puzzles to implement those strategies. That's great. That's what you want, right? You're taught a certain theme, then you're given puzzles that are for you to figure out how the theme bears out in the puzzles, and if you can't, then you need to restudy the puzzles, right? Another one, the follow-up, right? The Chess Detective's introduction. So this is, again, you get themes, right? You get themes, and then you get books like the Double Attack, the Discovered Attack, right? It's pretty basic. The Square of the Pawn, right? How to chase down a pawn if you're a king, right? So you get these themes, and then you get puzzles like this, right? It's good stuff. Any tactics puzzle is going to be good for you. I have Polgar, Laszlo Polgar, right? The Laszlo produces some monster books, right? He prepared his daughters well to become champions, not world champions, but like grandmasters. I think one of them is a grandmaster. I don't know if the other one is. Chess puzzle book. This starts kind of progressive stage, right? You get the pawn, and then you evolve to more complicated. I don't know if that's actually showing, but this looks like it's a little bit more complicated. Then you get to the end, and I think it even has some games that you follow. I haven't gotten that far, of course, but we're talking about 5,334 problems, combinations, and games. I think the games is a very small part, which I kind of prefer it that way. I don't really want to do games. I have games to do games. I have game annotated games. You know what I mean. Okay, so it's almost like the Bible of tactics, but it doesn't mean it's the best book. I just got this used. I picked this up used, Chess Tactics for Champions. So this is Susan Polgar, the daughter of Laszlo. And Susan, of course, was a world's women's champion, 4-time, as the title said here again. And this is supposed to be a really good book And what I like about it, now, if you do a tactics book, which I'm going to show you what I hate. So here, I don't hate this. So here, you see it says white to move. So clearly white to move, and then there is no script, there is no writing, there are no solutions here. There are no hints, right? I don't want that. I want exactly what I'm given here. Tell me white is to move, and I'm assuming white is to lead or win somehow, right? White is supposed to get a significant advantage, or get a checkmate. I don't want to. Don't give me puzzles, and I've seen this. Don't give me a puzzle where it says white to move, and then the result is I get a pawn ahead. Like, how the hell am I supposed to find that? Right? I'm a damn low intermediate player. How am I supposed to find this all these combinations that lead to a pawn move? Like, you wouldn't think that that would be the goal. Right? Anyway, like, eventually you want to get to that stage, but these puzzles should not be that. White to move, white to move. Now, it does tell you white to move. Some puzzle books don't tell you white to move, right? They have nothing there, and you're like, whose the hell's turn is it to move? Like, you're supposed to just look at it and figure it out, which most of the time you can, but why make me struggle through that nonsense? Just put, like, what I like is when they have, like, a little box or a little triangle up here that's in black. So if it's black to move, there's a little black triangle, and if it's white to move, it's a white triangle, right? So whatever, it can be any shape. Anyway, this has puzzles, and I think it's a progressive, right, from beginning towards harder, because that's how progression works. You're welcome. Next, the complete chess workout. Train your brain with 1,200 puzzles. Richard Palliser is supposed to be a really good chess author. This is, again, look, more puzzles, right? And you see, whose turn is it to move? Does it say? Do I know? No, I don't know. Right? I hate that. Oh, it does. It says it on the bottom. It says white to play. Black to play. I don't know why they bother with the printing of white to play. Just put a damn white box or a white circle next to the square, to the diagram, and I'll know. Right? You're just wasting print, and you're making me read, even though I just glance at it. Anyway, solutions are at the end. Good stuff. Now all these puzzle books are roughly the same, but some do focus on checkmates. Some do focus on a progressive building up to harder puzzles, and some, like this one, focus on certain themes. So the themes here are warming up, like easy puzzles, then attacking, right? Then opening tricks and traps, skill in the end game, loose pieces and overloading, right? What's overloading? Fiendish calculation. What I want to see is a book on teaching me how to calculate better. Test yourself. So that's always great. You always want to be tested. And then the solutions. So another good book. Forcing chess moves. Right? If you're learning to do chess combinations, if you're learning to do calculation, you always want to run through the forcing moves. Right? And then the forcing moves are the ones where your opponent is forced to do basically one thing. Right? But sometimes it could be two things. Let's say you attack the king with your queen, and your queen cannot be captured, and the check cannot be obstructed. So the only option is for your king to move. So he's forced, in that sense, to move. Most of the time, what they mean is he's forced to move to one particular square. Then you just have to calculate, okay, if he moves to that square, what would I do next? But if he's forced to move to, if there are two possible squares, well, then you just double the calculation. Okay, if he moves to this square, then I could do this, and then he would be forced to do this. Or if he moves to that square, then I could do this, and he would be forced to do this. So you want to calculate forcing moves first. Then you can calculate options, right? Which is harder, but the first thing you want to do is calculate forcing moves. And just by doing that, sometimes things pop up that you didn't see. But if you're a world-class player, then you're going to see that. You're going to just see that as you're looking at the board and calculating or analyzing. Next, Victor Pinkins, 1,000 checkmate combinations. Checkmates are obviously important. Most of us finish games in the middle game. Most of us finish our game. Most of us, and by I mean most of us, I mean like us intermediate players, low intermediate players. We win by checkmating our opponent somewhere in the middle game. And even though some of these puzzles, for example, don't have a lot of pieces remaining on the board, meaning like they're approaching the end game, the themes are still the same, right? The patterns that you checkmate are still the same. And even though there are many pieces on the board, sometimes you can still checkmate. You're still going to end up applying the checkmate with the basic theme involved, right? So there's like, um, I don't know, Pillsbury's mate. There's Blackburn's mate. There's is there a Philidor mate? I know there's a Philidor position. Anyway, there are different checkmates. Some of them have names, some of them don't. But these are the mates that they're gonna creep up over and over again, and these are important ones. So this is a good book to have, I think. Um, how to become 1001 winning chess sacrifices and combinations, right? Fred Reinfeld. This speaks for itself. This is the kind of puzzle book I like. Look at that, just puzzles. Does it tell me who's the move? Yeah, the top of the page tells you white to move, white to move. It's always white to move, I think, in this book. It doesn't matter. It helps. It doesn't matter if it's white to move, or as long as you're looking as long as you're the player to move, and your pieces are on the bottom going up, right? Then it doesn't matter. What I have a hard time is when it's black to move and the board isn't reversed for me, where I have to look at my opponent's moves. I have a little bit harder time seeing those moves, at least on a two-dimensional board. On a three-dimensional board, I see them better. I don't know how that is for you guys, but anyway, this is basically all I want. White to move, and I don't know, I think it breaks it down into different categories, so as you go, you know what kind of mates you're looking for, right? Yeah, it has pinning, knight, forks, double attacks, but in the end, what I don't like about that is you're always looking for pins in certain puzzles. You're always looking for forks. You're always looking for skewers. And that's kind of a cheat, or it's kind of an aid you would never get on a board, right? You would never understand. You would never. Nobody's going to be looking over your shoulder and saying, "Look, there's a pin there. Find it." Right. So that's why your pattern recognition has to be really, really good. So you know that the circumstances for a pin are either present, or which is the same thing as like seeing the pin. Here's another one. It's Your Move by Chris Ward. This has 50 puzzles for improving club players. So I'm taking it that the 50 puzzles are instructive. Then you have a test. And the layout of this book is, I think he has not three. He has like 4 or 5 different types of players. Let's see, Amy, Bill, Chuck, Debbie, and Eric. So Amy, Bill, Chuck, Debbie, and Eric have a certain chess personality, right? Like one is an attacking player. One is like a really passive player. Another one is always like doubtful about his own calculations. Another one is, I forget their personalities, but either way, they're different personalities, and these are the kind of personalities that you would encounter among chess players, and maybe maybe you have qualities of 2 of these people. But anyway, so he suggests a move for each one of those players, right? And then each one of those, so in each puzzle, each one of those players offers a move suggestion. And then it's your job to pick which one is the best move suggestion. So it's a lot of reading as far as, you know, what Debbie says, what Eric says, what Amy says, what Bill says. He could have just given us like the move instead of like, you know, some writing to describe the thought process. So this book is a little bit more interactive. You're going to want to take your time and kind of read it and hopefully enjoy what each of the players is saying, what are they thinking. I don't think it's necessary, but the puzzles are good, right? The puzzles are good and the instruction is good. I don't know if it's the best way to present it, but it is effective. Okay, Chris Ward. More puzzles, more tactics. This book and its partner, this book, and I don't know which one's first, to be honest. Is there a number? Anyway, Igor Khmelnitsky. Igor Khmelnitsky wrote these 2 books, and these books are actually really, really good. I don't know why all these books with like children's covers turn out to be really, really hard and really, really good. So he covers basically the same thing. So there's not going to be anything new, but he's going to give you a test, and he's going to give you a scoring system, and depending on which choice you made, you get a certain amount of points. So if you choose the best line, then you get maximum points. If you choose the second best line, like you see, like you can get an advantage, and then at the end you're gonna have like a piece exchange advantage. You get a rook for his, and you give up your knight. But you missed where you can pick up a clear bishop, right? So you missed the best option. So you're not gonna get the most points. I took this test. I took one of these books. I forget which one. I did like the first, I think 20, and I did terribly. Like, yeah, I got some of the optimal lines, but I missed a lot. I missed a lot, and I've always thought that my tactics were pretty good. Not great, but good enough to make me an intermediate player without knowing anything else. A low intermediate. Anyway, still, these are a lot harder than you think, and this is a good challenge if you're like a low intermediate to intermediate player. These are still going to teach you something. So I recommend both of these books. 1001 or 1001 Brilliant Ways to Checkmate. Again, Reinfeld. Same idea, but these are not combinations, but these are checkmates. So same pattern. So checkmates. John Nunn, famous author. I don't think he writes anymore, or if he does, he's really old now. But again, this is my kind of tactics book. Wait, I take that back. Yeah. So, but here you're getting a lot of explanation right next to the puzzle. So I don't prefer it that way, but it's not a bad way. You just want to cover up the answers, right? Get something. You get a little piece of cardboard, or you can find a thick or a wide bookmark. Then you use that. But I have a little piece of cardboard that covers up like from here to here, like so all this is covered up and I can look at it. But it's a little bit hard, you have to hold it in there, and then when you use it on the other side, it's less stable. But it's not a big deal, right? Okay. Then you get some games, I think. Next, another back to the same theme of children's books. Chess books with children's covers that are really a lot harder than you would expect. This is another one. This is actually 50, as it says on the bottom, checkmate patterns, right? These are 50 checkmate patterns, and Murray Chandler does a great job of explaining the checkmate patterns. So over here on this side, he gives the explanation, right? And he uses arrows, which is good. There's no need to use there's really no need to start saying like queen to h7, like especially if you're just a beginner and you're learning. Just arrows works, right? Arrows work, right? And so then you get arrows explain. So this page is going to explain the checkmate pattern, and then this page on this side will usually see, we'll check to see if you can implement the pattern, right? So I mean, can you apply the pattern? Can you see the pattern? And then is the checkmate there? Now, this is not so easy because some of these puzzles looks like, okay, I'm just going to follow the pattern. But because there's a piece at a certain location or a certain square, it's going to actually allow black, in this case, to thwart, right, to stop your checkmate, right? It's not going to work. So you have to see that. That takes time and concentration, right? That takes thought. So if you want to learn these 50 checkmates, it's not just here's the pattern applied in these more complicated puzzles. No, it's like, no, the pattern fails here. It doesn't work here because of this response. Or it almost works, but black can do this. But even though black can do this, you can actually do this, and then you end up actually being successful. So this is more than just basic checkmates. This is more than just beat your dad at chess. It's specifically these 50 kind of checkmates, and they're well explained, and the puzzles are well suited towards training you and making you critical, very critical when you analyze. Highly recommended book. Highly recommended book. And I'm more than halfway through that one right now. Learn Chess Tactics by John Nunn. Here we go, Nunn again. Right, discover the secrets of how to win chess games. Yes, checkmating is the secret. It's a big secret. Right, so in between moves, right, waiting moves, right, waiting moves. Not many people, well, not, I take that back. Everybody does it, but maybe It's good to emphasize it. Trapped pieces, right? How to trap a piece, or when to recognize when a piece is trapped. I don't think I'm in focus here, or I don't think I'm in camera completely. Anyway, so more puzzles. Another good puzzle book, right? More puzzles. This is another one. This is Tactics ×1 and Tactics ×2. Tactics Time sounds like a children's program to me, right? It's fun time with Barney. We're gonna learn chess, and these are also difficult, surprisingly difficult, right? Not discouragingly, like deflatingly difficult. I always think I'm gonna like just tear through these tactics books and like, I don't know why I buy them if I think I'm gonna do that, but like no, they stump me. Like to finish this page would take me like, a few hours, like 2 hours to get through these puzzles. And so we're talking about hours and hours of study and hopefully benefit if you actually study, and then the solutions at the end. So this is what you want. You want this, and it says white to move on top or black to move on top, and it says nothing else. Right? It says nothing else. I don't think these are broken down into specific groupings of like pins, forks, which you don't want because, again, it's more real life if you don't know what you're exactly looking for. So these books are really good. The layout is good. The structure is good as far as you're not just focusing on pins. That's good when you're first learning. Like, okay, I want to learn pins, so let me explain pins to me. Show me some applications of simple pins, progressively make them harder, and now I'm really good at spotting pins in even difficult situations. And then you do that with skewers, you do that with forks, you do that with double attacks, you do that with discovery checks, and then you get puzzles where they're all mixed in and you don't know. But maybe they're all mixed in of 5 different themes. I shake my hand really fast. Both of these are really good, right? Same idea, same theme to both of them. Another set. You don't need to get both of them, but they're both really good. Okay, and we continue. This is one of my favorite chess books. One of my favorite tactics books, I should say. This, just like the Tactics Time 1 and 2, I think this came out before that. This does not categorize the puzzles in any theme. The only thing it does do that I kind of don't like is that the answers are on the opposite page. Here are the answers and here are the puzzles. But you can easily cover up, one side of the page, and then, it's not written. The answer's not written underneath the very diagram, which you always like inadvertently glance at. You can easily cover up half the page, and then you can do the puzzles. And some of these puzzles are really difficult, and some of these puzzles are kind of easy. And they're mixed in. And of course, they're all mixed. The themes are all mixed in. You never know what you're going to get as far as a pin, fork, skewer, or whatnot. So, very good book. And what I like about these puzzles, and some of these puzzle books, you can just take with you, and you can just look at them on the bus, or while you're eating lunch, or on the train, or a plane, whatever. I was going to say automobile, but that would be cliche. Cliched. Winning Chess Tactics, Bill Roberti. Bill Roberti. I never heard of Bill Roberti, right? But this is an introductory tactics book. You want to give this to somebody who has just learned how to play the game. So, like, what's a pin? Okay, let me show you a pin, right? Pin setups, right? You get all basic stuff, and then slight progression. Basic stuff, slight progression, next theme. Basic stuff, slight progression, next theme. That's a good introduction to tactics. So, you're new to chess, or someone you know is new to chess, they know a little bit of tactics, make sure they cover all the tactics, and make sure they do a little bit of practice. This is a good book, and then you can jump to harder books. Invisible chess moves. How do you see them if they're invisible? right? So they discover chess moves that are in your blind spot. So this is kind of like the chess antenna book. All right, it's going to give you the layout of a typical position in which there is a skewer or a fork embedded in it, which doesn't really jump out at you, but if you can notice, what do you call it? If you can notice the circumstances, not the circumstances, if you can notice the layout, like the general layout, like you're like, oh, there's like an isolated piece here, or oh, the king and queen are lined up on the same file or on the same diagonal, or oh, the rook and the bishop are in a certain position relative to each other, such that there's a fork possibility, right? So that's what you have. This book is something to that effect. I really can't really explain it without going much deeper, but I don't know if I. Okay, let me do it because book is different, and you might be interested in it. This is divided into chapters, first into parts and then chapters. So part 1 is objective invisibility. So what does he mean? Let's go chapter 1, hard to see moves. So moves that most of us overlook. Quiet moves, right? So what is a quiet move, right? It's probably like a subtle move, like you put h2 to h3. Like, why would you do that? But later on, it becomes really important. Intermediate moves, right? Kind of like wait and see moves, right? Sometimes like you do an intermediate move to get a zugzwang. Um, the Desperado. I don't know. He just titled it the Desperado. I don't know. So there's alignment. There's forgetting the rules. So forgetting the rules, like I said, chess rules are rules of thumb. Sometimes you have to violate them. Well, you wouldn't be violating them. You cannot violate a rule of thumb because they're not meant to be applicable at all times. So it's inherent in a rule of thumb that you're going to not apply it. I don't know if that's violation. I don't know if that's just semantics. Okay, chapter 2, geometrically invisible moves. So moves that are hard to see because of the geometry, right? Bishops on the long diagonal and with the cluttered board are hard to see, right? The rook circuit, the bishop circuit, the queen circuit, changing wings, backward moves. Then part 2, subjective invisibility. Pawn structures, right? Pawn structures are important. So these are the kinds of things that he's talking about. And then he talks about the psychology that goes into why we miss moves. Like, for example, a lot of moves, a common move that is missed by players, especially in their calculation, is, let's say they have some mating threat, and the mating threat is going to finish like somewhere here. And what they forget is that the opposing player's queen is over here and it can just come all the way back, right? So moves that retreating moves are commonly missed moves in chess. And so there's some psychology about that. I don't know if we need to know the psychology. As long as you tell me, hey, look out for retreating moves, and if we do that over and over again, then you're going to start looking out for it instinctively. But this book attempts to kind of like break that down psychologically for you. And I don't know if that's beneficial or not, but it at least touches on these kinds of moves, that would be beneficial. Okay, my pile over here is getting too big. Next. Sarawan. Yasser. Have you ever seen Yasser's videos? He's a nice guy, sweet guy. You know, I don't know why I said sweet. He's just he looks like a good guy, friendly guy. Winning chess tactics. Let's just open it up and see. It's not heavy stuff, right? So he gives you some themes. He doesn't overdo it with the puzzles, which might not be something you want. You might want more puzzles. For me, I like heavily loaded puzzle books. I want to do puzzles. I want to do like 100 puzzles a day if I can, but I can't because I fall asleep. I get sleepy. Thinking is hard. Next. Another book that looks like it's for kids, or this one is actually obviously advertised as for kids, but it's not easy. I bought this used. I never highlight my chess books. Right? Themes, fork puzzles, themes. This is not super difficult, but it's not as easy as you'd think if you saw the title of this little kid, in front, and the little checkered coloring. Anyways, pretty decent book for like beginning tactics. I recommend. Understanding chess move by move. Okay, so we've left tactics, kind of. Actually, we haven't left tactics, right? This is John Nunn, How Chess Games Are Won. What does he mean by how understanding chess moves? Why isn't this in my annotation section? Maybe I should have put it there, actually. Maybe it's out of place. Opening themes, middle game themes, attacking play, defensive play, positional play. Yeah, this book is misplaced. It shouldn't be in my tactics collection, but for now, this is it. Understanding chess move by move. I need to reallocate this one. Logical chess move by move. Right? This is the same kind of title. Right? So this is kind of like my most instructive games, but it's broken down move by move. So this one and this other one are more like instructive games catalogs. Back to what I was talking. This book I mentioned in my other video. Winning Chess: How to See 3 Moves Ahead. This is one of the best chess books and one of the earliest chess books that I have. One of the earliest chess books I have. One of the earliest chess books that I bought. Puzzles. But it's not just 1 move, 2 move combination. It's sometimes 3 move combinations. And this is really helpful. I got good at looking 3 moves ahead. And I don't know because basically, I don't know if it was mainly because of this book, but because I play chess. I've been playing chess since I was 5. I didn't really start reading chess books until I was like 20-something. So by the time I was 20-something, I was already, a decent chess player. And I can already anticipate moves by my opponent, obviously. You don't get to be decent or intermediate or low intermediate without being able to anticipate moves. But this book reinforces it, and it does a good job, and they have good examples, and I learned from it. So it's good to go. I would recommend this book, Winning Chess Moves: How to See 3 Moves Ahead by Chernev and Reinfeld, 2 of the biggest names in chess publishing for a while. What's the Move? Another book that looks like it's for kids, but another book that's very difficult, right? He's giving you a position, and he's asking you, basically it's a big giant test, right? So you get a position, and he's asking you, okay, what's the best move, right? And you're given choices. You're given A, B, C choices. And then you choose the best one. And then he tells you at the end what the best choice actually was and why the choice you chose was right or wrong. This is a good book. So if you want to get quizzed and you want to be given options, which is a good idea, because sometimes you look at a puzzle and you have no idea, what to do here. Or even if you generate ideas like, maybe I should push my pawn, maybe I should make the sacrifice, or like, but sometimes you're like, no clue. I have no clue. Or even if you have options, you're like, you don't see the big difference between option A, B, and C. And you maybe don't even see the whole point of A, B, and C. You haven't calculated far enough. This book gives you 3 options. Ones that win, ones that probably win less, and ones that fail. And so at least it gives you 3 things, concrete options to consider. You don't have to sit there and look blankly and try to generate your own. Eventually, you want to get to that part where you generate your own options, right? You generate your own candidate moves. But for now, this is a good in-between step. This is a good book. Continue. I feel like I'm getting boring. Am I getting boring? Is this getting boring? I feel like I'm using a monotone. I think it's because it's late in the day. And this is my 3rd installment. I should have broken this up in a couple of days, but maybe this won't be the last for the day. Okay, anyway, chess tactics for advanced players. Now, is it for advanced players? Is it harder? Yes, it's harder. It's not a bunch of chess puzzles. I mean, it is a bunch of chess puzzles, but it's not as densely packed with chess puzzles. Right, so you're getting that, and you see the variations that are possible, right? So this is no light work. Uh, you should be looking at these puzzles and writing down your own variations. Look at the puzzle, study the puzzle, and try to solve the puzzle, but write down your variations. White would do this, black would do that, white would do this, black would do that, dot 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 dot, and then compare your notes. If you don't compare your notes, you're gonna do what most of us do. You're gonna notice there's a slight difference in your answer and the book answer, but you're just gonna say, "Ah, yeah, I had it, I got it. I mostly had the right idea." In other words, you failed, right? But you will never internalize that as a fail. You will internalize that as, yeah, I pretty much understood, and then you'll move on, right? And that's how you continue to be ignorant. That's how you continue to be bad at chess. You need to process failure appropriately. If you do the variations and you don't get it right exactly, and your method doesn't result in success, like, or in optimal success, then you failed. And you need to go and study that. You need to call that a failure, process that as a failure, and study that chess variation properly. Study that method, study that example better until you got it, until you actually really understand it. Now, whether how you retain it is a different matter, but don't process failures as, yeah, I mostly got it, right? So, chess tactics. And that's what a good coach will do for you, right? A good coach won't pat you on the head and say, "Oh, you almost did it." No, a good coach will say, "You got that wrong. Do it again," right? And if he's me, he'll call you stupid or a dummy, which is more socially acceptable. That's for all you teachers out there. Don't call your kids stupid. Call them dummies. How good is your chess? Another one that's really difficult. Not really difficult, but difficult, and you will do surprisingly poorly. You will do surprisingly poorly. ABC, what's your choice? And then you're given your grade at the end. This is good stuff. These ABC choice books are really good. Now, we're moving from chess tactics uh, specifically to the middle game, or to combinations. And I have here combinations in the middle game. This is a small pamphlet by Bondarevsky. This one's translated by Bernard Cafferty. Um, I think this is a classic. I'm not sure, but it's a really brief look into the middle game combinations. For such a brief book, you would think I would have read it already, but I have not, because I am that lazy. Actually, I just don't devote that much time to chess. I've started to recently, and by the way, I'll talk about it in my next series. I'll talk about the project I'm on as far as how to improve my chess. And I have a blog that I just started, which keeps up with my progress in my improvement. And it's actually specific to a book series of books of how to improve your chess, which I'm hoping to, work through. I haven't been doing such a good job at it, but I've gone through 4 chapters, so I am on my way. But that will be in the next series, so if you care, look out for that. Anyway, Combinations in the Middle Game, I cannot recommend it. I think it's an important book in chess history, but I'm not sure. Chess Game, Middle Games, Essential Knowledge. Yuri Averbach. Yuri is a famous chess author, and not because he's Russian. Although a lot of chess authors are Russian, because they dominated chess for such a long time, and because they have such a nice, lucid style, a nice, terse, lucid style of explaining things. Right? They're not American school moms, which cheer everything their terrible son and daughters do on the field. They are chess coaches who will tell you, no, you're wrong. Yes, that's good. Do it again. That's what you want, right? That's how you get improvement. You can't coddle yourself. If you coddle yourself, you're a waste of a human being, frankly. Okay, was that too harsh? Was that too harsh? Defense against the double blow. So you have certain themes. I skipped one here. You have certain themes, combinations, and sacrifices. I haven't gone through it, but Yuri has a reputation, a good reputation. And I bought this book based on that reputation. Combinations, the heart of chess. Irvin Chernev. Back to Irving, right? And again, combinations are. I don't know if combinations are the heart of chess. I once heard pawns are the heart of chess, right? I once heard pawns are the heart of chess. Anyway, combinations are important, right? And we're talking about middle game tactics, basically. But this is because it's in the middle game. You're getting diagrams of middle games, right? It's not just isolated theoretical examples somebody thought up that you'll never see in a game, or it's not just rare occurrences that you see in the end game. They're in the middle game. The pieces are all over the board, and you have to pull the combinations off, taking into into account sometimes the various defenses available to the opponent. Right? It's one thing to get a checkmate when there's nothing on the board but the king and queen and the other king. But it's another thing when your opponent has a bishop or a knight that he can use to deflect, to counterattack, or to capture your pieces, right? So combinations in the middle game, important, but not more important than end games. And probably not more important than pawn structures. But people love combinations because they're flashy and they look like they come out of the mind of a genius because of the surprise element, and so we huddle to these these things. In the middle game of chess, look again, Zanosko Barovsky, starting for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Middle game stuff. Right? Middle game stuff. Typical stuff. Middle game stuff. All instructive. All instructive. Good stuff. One day I will get to it. The Art of Chess Combination by... Is this a repeat? Did I just... Are these the same? Let's check it out. Chapter 1. Part 1. Combinations and their study. Chapter 1. Can the art of combination be learnt? And let's check this book out. The material basis of the game, the elements, space-time. No, they're different. But they're both about the middle game. And Zanosko Barovsky is a well-respected chess author. So these books undoubtedly would be beneficial to study for a better version of me. The Art of the Middle Game. Same title. Different authors. Keres. Paul Keres is a beautiful writing style. And Alexander Kotov, also famous. But Keres obviously is the big name here. I wouldn't be surprised if Kotov wrote most of this and Keres wrote less, but his name goes first. Because they want to sell books. Let's check out the table of contents here. Planning in the Middle Game by H. Golombek. So these are just article contributions to this book. So Keres will have contributed 2 articles, it looks like. Second, Strategy and Tactics of Attack on the King by Alexander Kotov. 3, How to Defend Difficult Positions by Paul Keres. That sounds extremely vague. Various Pawn Positions in the Center, Alexander Kotov. So pawn positions are important. The Art of Analysis, Paul Keres. I want to get on my soapbox about analysis. I think it was Capablanca. No, I take that back. I think it was Botnovic. I'm pretty sure it was Botnovic. Botnovic said that the heart of chess is not combinations, is not pawns. He said the heart of chess is analyzing the board. Can you analyze the board? Which I am terrible at. Right now, I'm assuming most of you are terrible at it too. And so if you look at a chess, like look at this board. Let's say it's yellow to move, right? First, can you analyze the board? Who's winning here, right? If you were given a choice to be black or white, which would you take? And why, right? And why? So obviously, the most obvious thing is you look at the pieces on the board, right? So white has 2 rooks, or yellow has 2 rooks, blue has 2 rooks. White has 2 bishops, blue has 2 bishops. Yellow has a knight, blue has a knight. Yellow has a queen, blue has a queen. Yellow has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns. Blue has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns. So materially, yellow is winning. Okay, but that's just one factor. That doesn't mean that yellow is winning. And that's far from chess analysis. But next, you would look at, let's say, open files or half open files. Yellow has the D file half open for him, right? And there's a half open E file for blue. It's not being occupied, but it's there. And so look at the battery of the yellow for the rook and the queen. It's on a half open file. So that's a really strong battery on a half open file. Look at blue's battery of rook and queen, right? It's on a closed file. So it's not as strong, I would think. And again, this is just me, the non-expert, talking. And look at the knight on D5. That's a very forward outpost, but it's not really an outpost because it can get kicked by the c pawn, right? But at what cost? I don't think it's a big cost because the king's already castled on the other side. So that knight is going to get kicked. You don't want that knight to sit there. Okay. Both bishops. Sorry. Both. Yeah. So there's yellow has a bishop on the diagonal, on the A1 H8 diagonal. That's cutting all the way across towards the blue king. That's a very strong bishop, right? I would want to chop that bishop with maybe my bishop or my knight if I were blue. The yellow queen is also pointing in that direction, and those two advanced pawns, the G and H pawns, and they're side by side. I forget what that's called, but those are the most powerful positions for pawns when they're side by side, because if they're attacked, they can always be moved. The one that's attacked can be moved forward to get support from the other one, but then your backwards pawn, the one in the back would be weaker. Anyway, so if you look at this position, can you tell me who stands better? Is it blue or is it yellow? And can you tell me why? You have to tell me why, or else you're just guessing, right? And then once you tell me why, which particular advantages, what are the strengths and weaknesses for each? Then who has the better plan of attack? Who has the better game plan going forward? Who has a simpler game plan and easier to execute game plan, right? So all of that is going to go into chess. Can you analyze the board? If you can do that like a grandmaster, if you can just analyze the board like a grandmaster, your rating is going to jump. Your rating is going to skyrocket, right? Because once you do that, like if you tell me, okay, now we're going to bring our other bishop into the game, we're going to lift our rook and start. I don't know why we would do it, but whatever you tell me the plan should be, whatever you figure out the plan should be, then a matter of implementing it is not as hard. It's not as hard as just knowing what I should do, knowing what I should go for, right? So chess analysis, you need to buy books on chess analysis. It's not strategy, it's not positions. It involves strategy, it involves positions, but you need to be able to look at it. You need to be able to look at a certain position on the board and analyze it correctly. So you need to know what elements go into that. And that's a skill I think no intermediate player has. I mean, he has it to some degree, but he doesn't have it to the degree that he should have it, that we all need to be to get good at chess. And that's what I've been buying lately. Not a lot, but I bought a few books on how to read a chessboard, how to analyze it, how to determine values. Anyway, so The Art of the Middle Game, Keras, good book. Continue. We're almost done here. I have 3 more books on this bookshelf. Back to Buckley. So remember, I was just talking about chess analysis, right? Practical chess analysis. This is a great book. It's not well known. Sorry, maybe it's not a great book. It's a very good book, but it does something that almost no other book does, right? It focuses on making you better at analyzing a board and coming up with a plan and strategy. So look at the topics that we're talking about here. Tell me if you've read a bunch of these. Training the mind's eye, right? So training the mind's eye, I don't know what that means exactly. Develop your intuition, right? Develop your intuition through pattern recognition, probably, and to sense to sense what you should be doing in a certain position. Preparing to analyze. So how can we prepare to analyze? How can we become better at analyzing, right? Pawn structure. So pawn structure is important to the analysis. You notice that when I talked about the layout of the thing, I didn't even talk about pawn structure, but it's important. And I didn't talk about it because I'm a noob. And if I wasn't a noob, it would have come to my mind earlier. Placement of the pieces, right? Are the pieces in their better squares? Are they in harmony? Are they supporting each other? Are they primed to attack? And where are they primed to attack? Open lines, right? You take advantage of them. Attack and defense, end game, the maneuvering game, and then you have study hints. So how to analyze. You want to get better at analyzing boards, right? You see, if you watch YouTube videos and you see the GMs and then they show you a certain position where like the game is adjourned, and then they say who stands better. They always have their answer. Sometimes they disagree, but they almost always agree as to like, okay, white is better, right? And they might disagree about what plans they should carry out, but even then they usually agree about, oh, he should be following now he should be trying to like pawn storm on the queen side, or now he should be trying to convert his advanced pawn. Whatever it is, they tend to agree. We need to get good at analysis. That's it. Here's an interesting book, a curious book, kind of a funny book. Point Count Chess by Horowitz, which is another famous author. He's kind of like, I think of Horowitz as the pre-Silman. Like he was Silman before Silman was Silman. And I'm not saying that because they're Jewish. Actually, I don't know if Silman is Jewish. Horowitz is definitely Jewish. And M. Gott Smith. So the premise of this book is that they're going to teach you how to analyze a position. And they do it by having a point count system. In other words, they'll give you a laundry list of things to look for, and then for each of things on that laundry list, you will award a point. So if white has, let's say, a rook on the 7th rank, that's a point. If white has an open file, that's a point. If white has the bishop pair versus his opponent, and the opponent has only one bishop and a knight or two knights, that's a point, right? So certain things, certain strategic things, certain positional things, and obviously material are going to be points. And then there are weaknesses. So there's strengths and there's weaknesses. And so if you have a weakness, you subtract a point. So what you're just doing is you're looking at white and you're accounting for all the weaknesses, and you're accounting for all the strengths and all the weaknesses, and then you come up with a point value. And then you do the same thing for black. And then given that rough and ready system, you determine who's better, right? And in doing that, in coming up with that value, you will have covered the themes in the position, right? The open files, the half open files, the backwards pawns, things like that. So this book is good for that. This book is good for telling you what strengths are in a position and what weaknesses are in a position. It's not so good as to for how then to approach the game, right? It goes beyond what it should, I think, and it's an ambitious book. It's basically trying to tell you how you should analyze the game and how you should proceed from your analysis. I don't think it works as far as how you should proceed, right? How you should play the game, but it's a good method in lieu of anything else, right? It's a good method for coming up with a rough analysis. And at least you learn what are considered strengths and what are considered weaknesses. Now, again, these aren't always going to be strengths. They aren't always going to be weaknesses. But unless you know the exception, unless you know why, in this case, it's an exception, it's a good idea to treat them as non-exceptions. I hope that wasn't too general and you understood what I was saying. And the last on the bookshelf, number 3, Principles of the New Chess. Right? I didn't think Pandolfini was around for the new chess, but I guess the new chess isn't that new. So these are the new techniques in new chess, right? So this book should contrast sharply, or somewhat sharply, with Nimzovich's rules. So what are the new chess rules that he's talking about? And again, don't think new as in 2010, 2000. Think new as in 1990, 1980. Okay, so what's interesting about this book, as I remember now, I don't remember as I just read again, is that you given White's first move and what he wants to accomplish, and then you give him Black's first move, and then White's second move, and then Black's second move, and so on, right? So this is he's guiding you step by step into how you should be opening the game. He's guiding you into what you should be considering in making the first step, right? And he's showing you dream positions. He's showing you positions that if you could take the first 6 or 7 moves, what would you want? And so when you have your dream position, you should be in the game working towards attaining that dream position, right? And in all of the steps, and why are they dream positions? Why are the pieces in those positions dream positions? And so he's explaining to you, and he's explaining to you with the background of the new strategies in chess, the new beliefs in chess, right? So this is a good book. This is a helpful book. Okay, that's bookshelf number 3. I don't know how many books that we've covered, but we're going to end up covering roughly 200 books here. So, any questions? Any comments? Any life-changing revelations you might have had that you want to share? Leave it in the comments section. I will thumb you down. Thanks for watching.